Hello, welcome back to my channel, Theater from My View. I am Amanda Washington, and today I have Keyanna Alexander here to talk to me about her artistry and how she shows up in theater. But before we get into it, a few things. One, I post a new video every Friday at noon. So two, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel because three, next Friday's coming quick, fast, and boom, in a hurry, and you don't want to miss it. All right, are you ready? All right, let's get into it. So, Keyanna Alexander here from Theater's Not Dead. She also works at Women's Theater Festival, and we also have like a special project going on, which by the time this video comes out, we can probably talk about it, but just in case. Keyanna, thank you for coming on the channel.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for having me on. I am such a huge fan of Theater from My View.
Thank you. I'm a fan of Theater's Not Dead. I stalk you and the page. I don't know why I haven't added you on Instagram yet, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Not what we're here to talk about. Keyanna, okay, so kind of like your channel, tell us like your origin story, as you call it. How do you get your roots in theater, or how did you get your roots in theater?
Ooh. As someone who asks this question to individuals all the time, I never have a set answer prepared for this particular question. So let's just keep it honest, and if I talk too much, just like wink really hard at me and I'll know to wrap it up. I have always been one of those kids that was so annoying and wanted to tell people ridiculous stories all the time. So my family said, perfect, we have a talker, we're going to put her on the law track. And that was kind of how I lived for a while. I thought I was going to go, so we're talking like 6, 7, 8-year-old Keyanna in her heart of hearts knew she was going to be a politician. And then I got into a bunch of math programs, and my parents said, oh, wait, she's really good at math. Accounting. There it is. So I just want everyone to understand that theater was always in me. I knew every word to every Disney musical you could put on. I would make my own choreographed renditions of the songs to perform for my family and friends. And my parents looked at all of that and said, accountant. And I went to high school where I had my very first drama program because the arts are very underfunded in my community here in North Carolina. So it wasn't until high school that I actually got to go into an acting role. I had danced in a community program before, but never spoke words, never acted. And we were doing a very illegal version of The Breakfast Club on stage. And I remember so specifically approaching the director of this program and saying, hi, I am a freshman. You have no clue who I am. I would like to point out for the record, our lovely Brian character never ends up with anybody. So in theory, it is the easiest character to gender bend. And I think I tell the story as always, I am so sick of traditional casting. Even 15-year-old me was like, fuck traditional casting. And that was my very first role, was little Brianna in the incredibly illegal production of The Breakfast Club. I'm not saying my high school name because I don't want anyone to get in trouble. And from there, I started writing because I was tired of seeing the same roles over and over again. I got to high school, I got to college, and I went down the management track, which naturally led me to the directing track. And then another time leap here, the pandemic happened, and I said, if you want to be a good director, you should always know the technology behind your work. So I learned how to stream, and then I took those skills and made my own show.
And so that is how we get Theater's Not Dead, correct?
Yes. So that is how, so I both freelance as a director, as a stream technician, and I used both of those brains to create Theater's Not Dead because I knew I couldn't be the only person out here adapting to the virtual medium.
That is so inventive. I didn't know the story of Theater's Not Dead. You look relieved that you got through the question. Oh my gosh, this is the interview, but this is not the job interview.
I was like, okay, just the highlights, just the highlights. Don't get into the grass.
Oh my gosh, just the highlights. Okay, so you're like, I hate stereotypical or traditional casting. What are some shows that interest you where you're like, I would really like to do some gender fluid or gender swapping type of casting for this show?
I hesitate to say this one because this was always my first understanding of like, oh, it'd be so cool if like people of different genders did this. But High School Keyanna was very, very unfortunately into Romeo and Juliet. So I really wanted to see a like Rihanna and Juliet, where it would be two women who fall in love. So now it's not only are they from feuding families, but what happens if one of the families is very homophobic or both families is homophobic. So that's an additional layer to why they can't be together. I always thought that'd be a cool twist. I just want to see all the women in all the roles. I honestly don't care what the role is. I think male actors, hi friends, I know you're out there and I know you're doing wonderful work, but have we considered replacing every man with a woman on stage?
I have no justification for this. I wanted to do an all female Hamlet. But yeah, I have no justification for it, but that's what I want to see. Okay, so you wanting to replace all the male roles with females or female identifying people, that's great because you work at the Women's Theater Festival. Talk to us about like that. Like, what do you do there? How did you get there? The first time I had an interaction with Keyanna is through one of my best friends. Will not mention that one because that one's a little weird and creepy when you actually think about it. But the second time is she worked for the Women's Theater Festival and I heard her voice and I was like, oh, that's a very pleasant voice. And now, wow, that was in July. So that's like at least 7 months later, we're working on a project together. You're on Theater From My View. I was on Theater's Not Dead. How did you get started with the Women's Theater Festival?
Okay, so there was a show. Okay, travel back in time. The year is 2017. And there is a show called These Shining Lives, and they need a stage. It's actually a really great show. Please look it up. The name of the playwright escapes me right now, but it's based on a true story about women workers who essentially get fucked over by capitalism. So These Shining Lives is looking for a stage manager, and the producer, Rachel Caston, just did a general email to universities saying, hi, we're Women's Theater Festival. We would love for some early career theater makers to hop in on some projects with us. And I have this position. Do you have anybody to fill it? Author Reese at North Carolina Central University, Eagle Pride, said, yeah, I have just the young woman. So that is how I first got into Women's Theater Festival, was a temporary stage manager position with These Shining Lives. And then they brought me back to stage manage their 48-hour festival, Occupy the Stage, back when that was in person. And Amanda, apparently there's more to the story than this. Because to me, it was like, cool, I did these 2 jobs for these women. And then I went about my day and my life. And then eventually they came back and said, no, we want to offer you more consistent work. According to Johanna, who is the executive director of Women's Theater Festival, apparently my name had been in their mouths a lot and they had been really considering me and stuff. So for me, it's kind of like, I don't know. I was just doing some stuff. And then they were like, cool, do more stuff. But that apparently it's a thing that happened that they talked about. And now, after about a year of being part of their general core, I am their associate artistic director, which means coming up in 21, 22, I am kind of doing all of the side programming. So none of the main stage stuff. We're leaving that to people with larger paychecks than mine. But some of, including the project Amanda and I are working on.
Ooh.
Um, so yes, did that answer the question?
It did. It did. People, okay. It kind of segues. You were talking about people with larger paychecks, and those are the people who get to produce a lot of the theater, people who have larger paychecks. So my question to you is, where do you see theater going? Like with the Me Too movement, we see You White America, and just with a lot that's happened in 2020 that's spilling over into 2021, do you see theaters really taking the initiative to change or to better themselves? And do you see that lasting?
I was in a conversation with two individuals, and someone had expressed how much they missed theater and the eagerness to see Broadway reopen. And the second person in that conversation, I love this quote. She said, "Bold of you to think Broadway's going to reopen." And I adore this quote. And of course, she went on to explain why she said that thing. But I adore this quote so much because it so easily summarizes my conflicted feelings towards at least the commercial theater industry, right? Like we can talk about nonprofits and community theaters and how, or even the educational theater segment of our industry, because these are all very different components and very different businesses, to be honest. So a lot of the coming out and we see you white theater is, in my opinion, a lot of it is from all of it. But commercial theater is worse in a lot of ways just because they have more money to harm people with.
Yes.
Just by proportion. If you only have a $200 budget, you're not harming as many people if you have a $200,000 budget.
All right. So explain more for the people. What do you mean by harming?
There's a lot of ways you can harm people using finances, Amanda. So let's talk about a few.
Yeah.
So you can harm people by actively withholding the funding they deserve, whether that is in your hiring, whether that is in what shows you produce, whether that is in the type of okay, so I mean, those are the big two, right? Like, are you hiring designers and directors and house managers of color who are going to be able to call you out on some practices that maybe you don't want to inspect and reconsider?
Yeah.
And then, of course, making shows and producing shows that also bring those same types of questions to light. So if you're not putting money into those people, into those projects, you are directly withholding power and voice and financial stability to a community. Some indirect ways you can financially oppress brown and Black communities is by producing and hiring shows that do not make space for marginalized people. Let's do Legally Blonde the musical one more fucking time. Yeah, sure. Where even if you decide to non-traditionally cast the show, right? We all know what the story of Legally Blonde is. We all know the stereotypes that it perpetuates. And that's me. I literally know every word to that musical.
I know it to the movie. I love the movie.
Like, Great.
It's good stuff, but we don't need it again.
Exactly. Has it been done? Yes. Has it been done enough? Yes. Is anyone getting anything out of it by doing it a 10,000th time? No.
I don't know who's going to be in trouble for this, but there's a copy of it on YouTube, so they can go watch it in the archives there.
I ain't gonna say nothing, but I ain't about to act like I ain't watched that exact version.
Me too. Me too. I use it as resources in the academic areas. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but oh my gosh. Okay. So
directly.
No, keep going. Keep going.
No, I'm just summarizing. So directly withholding, and then indirectly by putting your money into something that ain't feeding nobody's soul.
Feeding your soul. How important is that as an artist? Because you do it all. Like you act, you direct, you playwright, you stream, you create organizations. So yeah, how do you, which one is feeding your soul? Or is your soul getting fed? Like, as an artist, how are you feeding your soul?
That is an excellent question, Amanda. So I think like anything in life, you have your ebbs and flows of energy. So some projects I get more in than I do give out. And then other projects I put a lot out without getting a lot in, which, you know, is just kind of the state of the world. Welcome to capitalism. Sometimes you got to do a project for the paycheck. I'll say it. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was, Keyanna, sometimes you got to take the check and run. Like, don't invest yourself into a project that you know you're not getting anything spiritual out of. You're just doing it for the money. Take the check and run. It's okay sometimes. But one of the things I think I get the most feeding is in my playwriting, which is sad to say for me because I don't do it nearly as often as my other positions.
Yeah.
I love the world building of directing. I love being that source of information when I'm someone's stream technician or stage manager, that idea that I get to support someone so that they can be their best creative self. I love those positions, I do. But there's something about everything on the page is from me. And I get to make these decisions that I wish I could make in real life. I get to say the things I wish I could say in real life, and there's no repercussions because it's all on the page and it's all in this world that I've created for myself to be free and to be safe and to jam out. And sometimes it gets weird and it's beautiful. So I think I get most of my soul feed, because that's a phrase now. I get most of my soul feed from playwriting.
Okay. I hate asking what genre, because if someone asks me, what genre do you like to direct? I'm like, that's not really how I show up. So what's your style of writing like? What are the things you write about? I think that's a great way to say it.
I love writing about whatever's on my mind, which in the year 2020, a lot of that was about identity and racial tensions, and about how both of those intersect a lot more than we like to talk about. Hi, Theater from My View guests. I don't know if you know this about me, but I am biracial. So for me, a lot of 2020 was me, one, figuring out who the fuck I am, and two, kind of having a confrontation with myself and understanding what harm, if any, what harm my white presentingness has brought to both myself and to others. So I just talk about Black stories, and how Blackness intersects with so many other identities. And I love, love, love dark comedy because that's who I personally am. So that's how I write.
Yeah, she is a dark humor person. We're in meetings and I'm just like, this is the funniest thing that's happened. Oh my gosh, it takes all of me not to laugh at you because I know we're supposed to be being serious in meetings, and then it's like you say something and I'm like, well, I'll laugh about that when we get off this call.
And I think humor is one of those beautiful things that you can call out a lot of stuff and a lot of people, and you're still calling it out, but it doesn't come across as aggressive. Mm-hmm. Which is also a really great way to describe me because I hate being confrontational. So I would rather do a snide or gritty joke than look the person straight in the eye and be like, oh, that's fucked.
Oh my gosh, my best friend, she always tells me there's truth in every joke. And ever since I heard that, like, I can enjoy a good joke, but also I'm like, what are you trying to say to me right now?
For me, the phrase that kind of similarly is there's a little bit of truth in every just kidding.
Ooh, that's even harsher. That's even harsher because you know you have to throw those just kiddings in there for the super sensitive people who you know it would offend if you didn't say just kidding.
So and I heard that back in high school. I heard that, and that has always stuck with me. There's a little bit of truth in every just kidding. Oh, shit.
It's like, dang, no need to.
How many times I've done that to people and how many times people have done that to me.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of like the self-reflection you're talking about. Not as probably in depth, but it's like, what are you saying about my personality? Okay. One more question and then we'll get into the other stuff. If you could leave when you're done with theater, so at the end of your life, what impact do you want to have left on the theater?
I hate silence in shows, so this is me talking aloud, but I really enjoy this question because I don't think enough of us ask it of ourselves. So I'm going to compare myself to an artist that I greatly admire. And I want to leave. So the answer is I want to leave a similar impact of that dancer, choreographer, content creator, Mari Madrid. I almost blanked on this woman's last name and my heart was about to shatter in a million pieces. So Mari Madrid is this, oh God, she does a lot of activism in her art and lending her voice and her body to tell stories I think deserve to be heard. So just being able to represent demographics of people that feel underheard and being able to amplify those narratives, I so very much am prescribed to that same philosophy and that same wanting to be heard myself, but make sure those around me are equally as heard. Mm-hmm. And I was a huge fan of hers since I was about 13. Like I've just been following her career almost my whole life. And then literally last year, I found out that she's half Black. Like all my life, I just assumed that she didn't look white. She looked like white with maybe mixed up something else. So I assumed maybe like part Latina. I don't know. I didn't think a lot about it, but she did this talk about intersectionality with race, and in it, she identified as a Black woman. She didn't even mention any other mixtures. She identified as a Black woman, and like that hit me so hard. So I want to say out there to like all the mixed girls, we're here and we're doing it, and you know it's okay to be confused. That's just, I hope what people will take from my career is it's okay to experiment with your identity, whether that is gender or sexuality or race, because it's complicated and weird and no one wants to talk about how awkward it all is. So I see you out here, mixed girls.
Yeah, that kind of brings me back. We talked a long time ago, and I'm not sure where you are on with this project, but you and I think another colleague are collecting, I think it's nuances within the African American community and how that translates to biracial people. Yeah, yeah. So you're already living out your legacy.
Yeah. It's I'm so surprised that you're bringing that up because I feel like we talked about that so long ago. So the fact that that stuck with you, hey sis, I see you. Um, but yeah, so a friend of mine and I, we are both mixed girls, and we love talking about, again, everything I just listed, the weird, awkward, unspoken things, specifically in the Black community regarding race. And we had this rolling idea calling it the Mixed Girl Monologues, where we just kind of collect people's stories and the nonsense that is being multiracial in America and making it into a show. It's currently on hold because life gets away with us, and we're both really busy. But it is my dream to make Mixed Girl Monologues a reality, to be either published or at least released to the public.
I can't wait to read it or see it, however you plan to do it, just because it's definitely a platform that I think needs way more attention. Way more attention. Okay, now we're at the final endings. Tell the people what you have going on and how we can keep in contact with you and follow the explorations of Keyanna Alexander.
Okay, friends, so here we are. As we have mentioned before, I do a thing also on the YouTube called Theater's Not Dead. And that's not all caps because I wanted to be dramatic. And Amanda's been on it. She was our season 2 closer, actually. And that just makes my heart aflame. But it's this thing where we talked with Black women about not waiting for permission, which was the series that Amanda was a part of. I don't know how the camera's set up, so I don't know if I'm actually pointing at her or not, but
you are actually.
Oh, yeah. It's the little things, friends. It's the little things. So you can follow me, Theater's Not Dead YouTube channel. That is a thing. Please like, subscribe, some shit, hit the bell so that you can get updates. We're about to be going back in February. So you want to be sure that you are caught up and ready to go when that season 3 is coming at you hard. I also have this cool thing called a coffee page. So that is Coffee, KOFI. And that's where my blog lives. So if you like the words I'm saying and you think Keyanna is at some level articulate, maybe you'll want to read some of my writing where I further explore themes that we talk about on the talk show. Projects I currently have coming up. Amanda, I haven't told you about this because I wanted you to have a real reaction for your viewers. I'm going back to acting. I auditioned and I got 2 roles. Like I had got 2 separate projects now that I'm doing, and I'm so excited. So I will be Hermia in A Midsummer Night's Dream for all the William Shakespeare fans out there. That is with Head Trick Productions based out of Rhode Island. And I will also be playing Elaine for Brave New Classics virtual. I'm forgetting the name of the show, and that's embarrassing. But 14. So 14 is the name of the show. It is by Brave New Classics. I am a New York debutante, honey. So I'm putting my acting hat back on to both my mother's delight and despair. So who knew I wouldn't be an accountant?
Or a lawyer. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, Keyanna, so much for coming onto the channel. It has been a blast talking to you. Everyone else, I will see you next Friday. Bye.